This segment brought to you by Gutierrez Law Firm.
Hola, mi gente. I'm attorney Francisco Gutierrez and a proud sponsor of Arizona Barrio Stories. I grew up in the Anat Barrio, and I've been practicing law now since 1984. Experience really does matter. If you've been injured by someone, call me. Let's talk.
Welcome to this episode of Arizona Barrio Stories. Today we are bringing you a real story from the Barrio. I keep asking you, tell us your story, and today we have a real story from the Barrio. So we have a special guest. He's going to introduce himself, and we're going to follow him through his journey as he grew up in this area. And don't mind it if you hear an airplane or two. That might be a giveaway of where we're at. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. I'm Luis Miranda, owner of Miranda's Customs. That's how most people know me, as a car guy, but there's much more to tell about my story.
And before we get started, where are we located today?
Right now we're on the corner of Central Avenue and Grant. This is one of the runways that leads right into the Sky Harbor Airport.
Tell me from the beginning, as we chart your journey, where did you grow up?
I grew up on Mojave between 5th and 6th Street. Kind of a small neighborhood. It wasn't as heavily populated like Cuatro Milpas or even Campito, the projects over here, Marcos de Niza. We're kind of small community there in that area. But yeah, right on Mojave.
And tell me about your parents. Were they from here?
No, they were not. My dad moved here in 1952, came as a bracero to work, and wanted to save up some money to buy his own dump truck so he can go back to Mexico, because that's what he did over there, was driving a truck, and he never left. So he ended up going back to Mexico in 1956 and got married to my mother and brought her back in 1957. And started raising his family there on Mojave.
So as your family grew up there, where did you attend school?
Well, I started at Adeline Gray Elementary on the side of the freeway. It's Durango and 2nd Street. Went into school knowing very, very little English. My parents, of course, were both Spanish speakers, and so that's how we grew up, speaking Spanish. And had to go through special classes up to the 3rd grade to be able to speak English properly and be able to get along in class okay.
So do you consider that an obstacle, or do you think that was a plus for you now that you're older?
Positively an obstacle at the time, but I'm so grateful now that I have both languages to help me in business and just get along in the course of life. It's very important, especially nowadays, to have that Spanish language as a backup.
Now from Anat, where did your journey take you? What other schools did you end up attending, and then high school?
So I started at Adeline Gray and then stood there till 6th grade, and then went to Sylvester Herrera on Buckeye and 12th Street. And I did my junior high years there, 7th and 8th grade. From there I went to Phoenix Union, and I was the last freshman class that entered Phoenix Union because it closed the following year. And from there I had to move to Carl Hayden.
What are the good memories, or even just memories in general, that you have of growing up around 7th Street and Mojave area? What stands out in your mind?
A lot of good things. There was a lot of good people around there, a lot of good families. Marcos de Niza Little League was a huge part of my youth. They started out playing at Adeline Gray School and then moved to Skiff School after a couple of years there at Adeline Gray. And I started with Marcos de Niza Little League when I was 8 years old, and played until I was 12 years old. That was a cutoff point for the Little League age. Had some really, really nice memories there at Skiff School. That was a huge part of the community, the Latino community here in this area. We had games 2-3 times a week, you know, and so even if people weren't playing, they'd go to watch other people, other teams playing games there, and a lot of the adults that didn't have kids playing, they would still go to watch the games. It was a huge gathering of Latinos there at Skiff School.
And do you remember any of your coaches?
Actually, my dad actually coached my team. I was on the Yankees, which we were a pretty dominating force at that time, and my dad coached. I also had another coach, Danny Redondo, and he was actually my neighbor also. He was a custom painter. Danny painted for Los Creators on Central Avenue. So that's kind of where I got a little bit of lowrider education, was with my neighbor. He was always painting a car there, or prepping a car there at his house for paint. And he had his son, Junior, that had a La Negra. It was a 72 Malibu that was painted black. And they put a new paint job on that car every 4 or 5 months, you know. So I was always entertained by them working on their car there, my neighbors, you know, to get it ready for a new paint job. Lowriding was pretty popular at the time, and just coming in here in Phoenix, and so everybody was huge into building cars.
You mentioned off camera that you were also a part of the Scouts. Tell me about your Boy Scout experiences and where that started.
I got recruited by Eddie Valdez. He was the Scoutmaster at the time here at Friendly House, and went to my school there at Adeline Gray when I was in the 4th grade, and was recruiting boys to join the Scout troop. And I already had a real good friend of mine, Angel Flores, that was already included in that Boy Scout troop, and he kind of convinced me to go in. They were having a lot of fun, and I did. I went in and stood till I was 14 there in the Boy Scouts. I was working on my Eagle Scout when I decided to leave. I was too cool at that time for Boy Scouts anymore.
Too cool for school.
But it was really great times there in the Boy Scout troop. There was 54 of us in the troop at the time. It was the largest Boy Scout troop in Arizona at the time.
So there were no badges, Scout badges for low riding or painting?
Unfortunately, there wasn't. I was already involved in working on cars and stuff at the time. But yeah, there was none of that in the Boy Scouts.
Do you remember during that time period any values or consejos that your parents might have tried to instill into you?
Every day I think about that stuff, every day. And so, you know, there's a lot of Mexican sayings that
Dichos.
sí, todos los dichos that were passed down to me, you know, el que mucho abarca, poco aprieta. Hopefully people understand that one, you know. There's just so many that come into mind in me raising my boys. And I've, of course, passed those dichos on to them. And so there's so much to touch on right now. I'm having a trouble getting it all out because there's just so many things that come into mind. But I had some really, really great parents, beautiful parents that taught me a lot and instilled a lot of good things into me to make me become a somewhat of a good man.
Do you have any other people besides your dad or your mom? Do you have any other people that you consider mentors that help support you, build you up, or lead you along your life's journey?
Yeah, actually, Eddie Valdez was a big one, the troop leader. He was a big part of my youth at the time. Allowed me to get a job there at Friendly House. It was my first summer job. Actually got me in before time. I was 13 years old. I should have been 14, but he was able to swing that for me. And that way I could make a little bit of money. And that got me started in learning how to take care of money, invest money, save money. He was a big teacher of that, and instilled that in me to be able to use money as a tool to create success for myself.
Unfortunately, I think that's a skill that a lot of people don't have today. Young adults, they don't know how to manage their money. So kudos to him for giving you those skills back then.
Yes.
Okay, as we go along your journey, you have already mentioned that you had somebody kind of inspire you about painting and body work. Tell us when you really got that bite, that mordida, that you thought, okay, this is what I want to do.
You know, maybe that came about 14 years old. There was a couple of guys in the Cuatro Milpas Barrio there, Efren de la Garza and Steve Rodriguez, that they were just a little older than me. I was 14, they were about 17, 18, but they were really doing it at the time. They were doing some crazy nice paint jobs out of their backyard there at Steve Rodriguez's house. And I used to ride my bike over there and watch them work, and they actually taught me a lot of things at the time as a kid about doing body work and learning how to custom paint. And those guys were really tearing it up at the time, and so yeah, that bug bit at that time with those guys and my neighbor, Danny Redondo. I just couldn't get away anymore. It stuck to me. I couldn't, there wasn't anyone that was going to rip that off, you know, and so I just threw myself into that sport. I tried to learn everything that I could and get as good as I could in every aspect of building cars.
A lot of times on our show we ask people, you know, what is your passion? How did you find your passion? Evidently, you found your passion at a young age. Now, once you were bitten by the bug, how did you end up with this spot here on the corner of Central and Grant? How did you end up at this spot?
Oh, it's quite a long story, because growing up there on Mojave, that's where I started my first shop. I used to work for Mando Narvaez, which was a huge he was #1 lowrider builder at the time. Had a shop on 12th Street and Van Buren, and he was producing top quality cars, nationwide recognized cars at the time, which at that time the Southwest was the only ones building lowriders. There wasn't anybody else anywhere in the world building lowriders but us here in the Southwest. And so he was a very well-respected, talented person that I got to work with and learn a lot from. And so then I went back to Mojave, where I grew up, and started working for myself at the time. And luckily I was...
In your own yard? Or
actually in the backyard of my parents' house. Yeah, I started there. Right there on Mojave and 5th Street, and I worked out of the backyard for about a year, and my parents were very supportive of that.
I was going to say that it's
No, I'm telling you, my parents were such good people, and they're very supportive of what I wanted to do, and saw the talent that I had, and so all they did was back me up in that. So they did everything they could to help me, and once I filled up the house with cars, I realized that I had to move out, you know, and get a place. And so I rented a shop on 2nd Street and Mojave that's still there now, and that was the first shop. My rent was $450, and I was terrified. I thought, how am I ever going to pay that? I had never paid rent ever in my life. You know?
Rent and utilities.
And utilities, yeah. So
and supplies.
Right. It just went on and on, the cost, you know. And so I opened on a Saturday in June. Must have been '89, and that first Saturday I was open, I made the $450 to pay the rent for that month. So I thought, oh man, this is going to work out pretty good. You know, I think I might be able to stay in this for a while. So from there, from 2nd Street, I moved right next to my parents' house on 6th Street in Mojave. There's a little shop there that I was there for another 8 years. And I had so many employee problems. I'm sure most people
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Is did you recruit anybody to help you?
Yes. I when I was on 6th Street in Mojave, I had 6 guys working, which was a lot for me at the time. You know, I was still in my 20s, and so that was a lot of guys to be under me. You know, and they were all older than me, so that was difficult too. And so it was trouble getting respect from those guys and keeping good employees. So I got so tired of the employee problems that I decided to close.
Oh my.
Yeah, and I did. I closed my shop there on Mojave because of the employee problems, you know. By that time I had a pretty good full pocket, you know. I was saving a lot of money and doing really well in business. I was able to shut the shop down and stay the Okies for 6 months, you know. I didn't do anything, and I really thought in my head, what am I going to do now, you know. I thought I'll get into something else where I can work by myself, but I realized there was no way I could stop doing what I was doing.
Now, at that time, did you have a family?
I was just married. I had my wife, and I had my daughter was my first child, and so yeah, it was a big decision time in my life to see what I was going to do to continue to raise my family. So like I say, I realized that my God-given talent couldn't be wasted, and I said I just got to go back and open up. So I decided I'm gonna work by myself, and I bought a house right here on First Street in Grant, and when I bought the house, I realized it was a zoned commercial. It was C2 commercial zoning. So I said I'll build a shop in the back of my house and I'll work by myself. And so I did that for about a year and a half. And everybody that were, all my client base that I had on Mojave over there realized that I was right here behind my house, and I just got flooded all over again. So after filling up my house and my neighbor's house with cars and parts, you know, I said, I'm just gonna have to get a shop again, you know. And at the time I had 2 employees there at my home, so I was already overloaded where I couldn't work by myself. And that's when walking by this place, going to a dance right here at the American Legion, I realized, man, there's an old shop here, because it was so full of junk you couldn't even tell. And I knew who the owner was. It was Mr. Fink that owned 805 Appliance Repair. So I went and talked to him and I said, hey, I want to rent the shop on the corner. And he says, oh, it's going to take me months to clean it out. I can't do that. I said, I'll wait. I'll be patient. If you want, I'll help you. He said, don't worry, I'll get it cleaned out. So he got it cleaned out, and I moved over here, and I've been here about 21 years now.
21 years?
Yeah.
And this place is filled to the brim.
Yes.
So you must be doing well.
Well, thank God, you know, I've been very fortunate. People have been very kind to me, and I've never had a lack of work, ever. Behind
you is a Camaro, correct?
67.
67?
It's a 427 4-speed Super Sport Camaro, fully loaded. Very rare car, very expensive car. So I get quite an array of different vehicles here to work on. It's not only the lowrider stuff, but it's a lot of hot rod stuff and muscle cars.
It's making my heart beat. I told you I had a 68 Super Sport 350.
Sure, yeah.
And I look at that and I think, ah.
Yeah, I'm sure the color does something for you too, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining us today. If people feel the need to come visit you, what would you say to them? Where you are and what is it that has kept you here?
I'm actually very comfortable here. There's been many people to ask me why I haven't moved away, why I didn't open a shop on the north side where I could make more money, have a more prestigious shop. But I'm from the Barrio, and I'm going to stay here. There's no reason for me to leave, and so that's why I've kept my shop here in this area and lived in this area all my life. There's no reason for me to leave. So anybody who wants to see a homegrown guy that's still here, come on down Central and Grant, and I'll do everything I can to make them feel at home.
Thank you for visiting us today.
Of course, thank you.
You can come to the corner of Central and Grant, and this place is awesome. You can see cars here. He's working on cars, and he's homegrown. He's from the Barrio telling his story, and we want to hear yours too. Your story is important. Call us, email me, irma.payan@azbarriostories.com. I want to hear your story too, and I want to hear about your passion. I will see you soon.
Hello, my name is David Adame, President and CEO of Chicanos por la Causa. Today, I would like to announce our brand new exciting partnership with Arizona Barrio Stories. Arizona Barrio Stories is a key part of our community and in line with what we believe in, restoring Chicano history and making sure that we continue to celebrate Mexican traditions, history, family, and culture. Arizona Barrio Stories will play an important role in bringing you important stories about Chicanos por la Causa and the founders who helped build Chicanos por la Causa, but also other key important stories about our Chicano community here in Arizona. We look forward to a wonderful partnership, and thank you for your continued support.